All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast real estate tip. And on today's GSD Mode podcast, I wanted to break down and talk about, for those of you that are buyer's agents. Look, maybe you're a buyer's agent, buyer specialist, or maybe you are a real estate agent that works with both buyers and sellers, but the majority of your business is buy side. Or if you're a team leader or broker owner and you do a lot of buy business within your team or brokerage, or your agents, you have a percentage or a high percentage of their business that are buy side transactions. I wanted to break down and talk about how to best prep and plan for these NAR proposed changes that are coming. I'm just getting blown up right now from agents, team leaders, and broker owners at all levels, but especially getting blown up right now by buyers agents, buyer specialists that are having this concern and fear, which is very validated, but this concern and fear that, oh crap, dude, is my business going to go away overnight? What do I need to do to shift, pivot, and change? So I want to break that down. Now, the first thing, and look, I'll just give a little disclosure here because I think that this is an important disclosure when it comes to this, because I'm watching so much content that's being put out there that's like, oh, well, this is set in stone. These changes are set in stone. This is how it's going to be. Look, the fact of the matter is that this is a proposal. The information that's been released right now is a proposal. It is subject to court approval. We don't know how this is going to shake out. This could get pushed through, right? It could get shot down. And, the other side might be like, nope, this isn't good enough. We need it way more strict. We need, whatever. It could get agreed upon, and then there could be changes after the fact. Look, change is something that's always taken place, always is taking place, always will take place. So the first thing that I want to lead off with here is don't have fear to these changes or any changes that might come. Again, fear is something that's always taken place, always is taking place, always has taken place. It's just a law of nature like gravity. Right? You can't change that fact. So why have fear to something that just is? Why have resistance to something that just is? Instead, embrace it. And this becomes really important. Amongst the storm, we want to be calm amongst the storm so we can see all the opportunities at hand. The vast majority of your competitors of our industry, they are going to freak out. Right. And when they're freaking out and chaos is going on in their mind and they're operating from that fear puts people into inaction. And we don't want to be in action right now. We need to be the opposite of that, right? We need to be in massive action, going out there, making the right moves to position ourselves to be in the best position, not to just, survive, but to go out there and crush and thrive it. And I know I say this a lot here on the podcast, but I truly believe not just because of these NAR changes, but that with these being a part of it, with what's going on with these changes, plus with the economic climate that we are in the beginning phase of this economic winter that we are stepping into, plus with the exponential growth of technology in AI, put all these things in the mix at the same time. I truly believe that over the next several years will be the greatest opportunity that you and I have ever seen to go out there and dominate in this business. So my recommendation number one, and I got 4 different key points that I want to go through and walk you through of how to, best position yourself and prep for this, to go out there and ensure, again, not that you just survive, but that you go out there and crush it and dominate. But my number one thing is, again, don't operate in fear, get excited and commit to making it through this no matter what. Commit to, hey man, I don't have a plan B. This is my plan A. I'm burning the boats. I'm burning the ships. I am going to succeed no matter what. So you can take advantage of these huge opportunities to come. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I would not be surprised if 5 or 10 years from now, there's 500,000 realtors versus 1.5 million. Okay, when you start looking at that landscape, if there's 500,000 realtors, but there's just as many citizens, throughout the country, there's just as many people buying and selling real estate. That fact isn't going to change. The way that you and I might have to do our business I'm not going to say the way that you and I have to do our business might change. It's going to change, right? Like change is inevitable. Again, things are always changing. But the fact that people are always going to be buying and selling real estate. So if there's 500,000 of us, but you still have, 340 million Americans and they're still buying and selling real estate. Okay. There's going to be more opportunity to be had for those of us that take this seriously, that adapt accordingly to the changes and take advantage of these opportunities at hand. So don't allow this to get you down. Don't allow this to be fear, create fear, man. Get excited, man. Get it, but pay attention, right? Pay attention, take action, get into action, and make the necessary adjustments that we need to go out there and make. Okay, so when we're breaking down these different proposals, now look, I don't know if you've had time to go out there and read, all the NAR document, which is 150 some pages. And a lot of this, applies, to concerns that a lot of you are having, and some of it doesn't. Some of it's more on the brokerage side and who's going to be exempt from, protected from potential lawsuits, which MLSs, which brokerages, which, ones, not, but the things that at least what most are reaching out to me that I want to focus on here for today, that the concern is around is really based on a couple different things. Number one, in the MLS field, excuse me, in the MLS field, the field offering the co-broke percentage from the listing, from the seller on the listing going away and disappearing. And that proposal is to take place in July. So there's two big, main changes taking place in July, right? So number one, you've got the MLS field disappearing, going away, offering that co-broke. So right now it's like, go on there. Okay. You can sit there and see, okay, is the seller offering a 1% co-broke, a 2% co-broke, a 3% co-broke? In my market, sometimes you go on there and say they'd be offering $1, or $0, right? I can't say I've ever seen $0, but I've definitely seen $1 ones. So a change that was made, a long time ago. And some of these have been, because each MLS is different. What, there's 500 some MLSs or 500 plus MLSs throughout the United States. And some of these have been, congregating, but last time I checked, there's like 580. So a bunch of different MLSs, throughout the US, and each one can have different things. But, some of them, maybe always had this in place, but in a lot of them, it became a change where, okay, then they could offer, $0, like offer a, $0 amount or a $1 amount, not just a 1%, 2%, 3%, and so forth. Right. But that disappearing, okay, that's change number one. Change number two, is mandated buyer broker agreements, which I see that as a great thing. I think that's something that we should have all been doing forever in our business. It's something that I started doing, 17 years ago inside my own real estate business. I had my first couple of years in the business of just getting sick and tired of spending all this time with, buyers and clients out there. And then come to find out they bought a house through an open house. They didn't go through me. And I didn't blame my clients. I just looked, okay, I'm not treating my buyer consultation like I did my listing presentation, and not, ensuring I'm getting ready, willing, educated, committed buyer clients, right? So I see that as a positive, but that's going to be no longer a choice. You got to get the buyer broker agreement in place. The other change is, okay, on that buyer broker agreement that we have in place, that is where your buyer representation compensation is going to be negotiated, and you can't get paid beyond that amount. Even if the seller is then offering to pay you beyond that amount, you get paid what is on that buyer broker agreement that you negotiated with your buyer. Right. So one important thing here, like you can just hear me say, I've heard said this a couple of times, as I was explaining, that is that word negotiation. Right. So you're going to need to get your negotiation skills into place and be able to articulate your value and be able to articulate that value that you bring to place so you can negotiate your fee, but that's going to be upfront. So let's just say, as an example, I don't know, you negotiated, I won't use percentage, I'll use dollar amounts. Maybe you negotiate a $10,000 fee that you're going to get paid throughout this transaction. Then you come to find out, and that's what's on the buyer broker agreement. Then you come to find out, the listing agent was willing to pay 15. Okay, you're not allowed to get paid more than what is on that agreement, right? And at least that's from the knowledge that I have at this point, with the proposed changes that come up. And again, these are just proposals. These are just the changes that I'm getting a lot of people reaching out to me for concern on. Now, with that, I am not just prepping and planning for just these changes, because I also know and understand that this is subject to court approval. And even after court approval, there could be more changes and more changes and more changes and more stat, like who knows where all this is going to go. So I'm speaking from a broad term here of, and I plan for hope for the worst, plan for the, hope for the best, plan for the worst. It's like worst case scenario. And I'm not saying buyer agency is going to go away, but worst case, if it gets to the point where buyers do not see the value in paying a realtor compensation to go out there and find a property, right? So not that buyer agency would go away. It just becomes kind of not commonplace, because buyers may not see the value in that, and they just go direct to listing agent. And again, I'm not saying that that's what's going to take place, but that's what I'm planning for. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. So how can we hedge our business, for each different way that it goes. Now I'm having a lot of buyers agents reaching out to me that maybe they're, I don't know, doing a bunch of Zillow, Realtor.com, or open houses or social media, whatever, and they're like, hey, should I stop this? Should I abandon all this altogether and then start going to the listing side? And I'm like, no. Right. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you're doing your YouTube channel, maybe whatever, and you're having a lot of great consistent results from that right now. No, I would definitely keep that status quo. But there's some other things in addition to that I would add to hedge yourself for that. Okay, so I got 4 different things I want to cover with you guys here today on this podcast, of just what I'm doing, right, of what I'm doing, of what I've been doing for over the last year to prep for this. And we're going to have more time to prep for this because, like I said, this is going to be, these changes would take place in July. And I don't know necessarily how long the court has to go out there and approve these, changes, but it might even be several weeks or longer before we even know if this is going to be definite or not. But regardless, we know that changes are coming, and some type of form of these changes. Right. So we have an idea of this. And again, I've been prepping for this for over a year. I've been talking to you guys about this on the podcast for a long time now as well, of how to go out there and adapt for these changes. But I know that, okay, I could be talking about them a year ago, but until shit hits the fan, people don't really wake up and start paying attention to these. Right. So again, I'm just going to walk you through changes that have been me and my team. Because look, when I'm operating one of the top teams in the country, one of the top teams on the planet. So, and I've seen a lot of different markets, a lot of different changes, and I've just learned, man, like you gotta learn how to read markets and read changes that are coming and adapt accordingly and be prepared. And sometimes some changes, I'm not gonna say I haven't been blindsided by some changes, because I have, but I've learned the best of my ability to go out there and prep and plan for these changes, ahead of time, so I can be prepared, so I'm not blindsided. Okay, so real quick before I get into these 4 different points, look, if you are a realtor, team leader, and broker owner, and your business is not exactly where you want and need it to be, maybe your business is declining, maybe it's staying stagnant, maybe it's growing, just not growing at the pace that you want it to, and you just do not know exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where you want to go. If that is you, I invite you to schedule a 100% free, 100% zero pressure Zoom coaching call with me personally, where we're going to break down where your business is at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals are, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are. Then I'm going to map out, hey, if I'm you, if we switch places, here's exactly what I would do to get you from right where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. This is a Zoom call with me personally, so it's not with somebody with my team. It's going to be you and I jamming for an hour-long Zoom call. And if this is something you want to take advantage of, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. Really important if you book this. There's going to be a video right after you schedule this that you're going to land on. That's really important for you to watch. It's just going to give you information of how to best prep for this call, what to be ready for, so we can maximize your time and ensure that we got plenty of time to get you dialed in, because I want to make sure that you've got all the information and the plan that you need to go out there and dominate. Okay, so let's transition back into covering these 4 different points. Okay, so point number 1. Here, and I kind of already covered this, I guess, in the beforehand, so I'll go fast on this point, but just remember, this is a proposal that is subject to change. Nothing is 100% definite yet. And I can sit there and say this, I've talked to some people that, have some great connections and that are pretty high up in the real estate world, if you will, and have some deep connections. And it sounds like there's a high level of confidence that these proposed changes are going to get pushed through. But look, I don't count on that. Right. Like I'm still hope for the best, planning for the worst. Right. Like I think that these changes, does it switch things up? But I think that these changes that we're seeing for the most part are a net positive. I don't look at these as a net negative with these changes, but I'm still planning on, okay, worst case scenario, the court, let's just say, okay, the court denies these changes, and the changes that end up coming into place are way more harsh, way more industry disrupting. Yeah, right. So just again, that is how my mentality is: hope for the best, plan for the worst. So I'm just going to be walking you through what I'm prepping for and what I've been prepping for a long time. Okay, so number 2 here. So and the reason why I went through number 1 so quick is because we already covered that. I got ahead of myself earlier on the podcast. So number 2. Now, this is the common thing that I'm getting from buyers agents right now is, should I abandon? Let's just say they're crushing it with YouTube and crushing it with social media organic, or crushing with open house. So you name the strategy, but it's well, hey, should I abandon these things and focus all of my time on going after and getting listings right now? Now, my response to them, is no. And I'm just going through again here of what I am doing inside my real estate business. Look, we have a big part of my real estate team, one department that is a Zillow Flex team. That's about 20 some units every single month, just from, Zillow leads. Those are all buyer leads. Am I like, oh, we're going to shut that down? We're not going to focus. No. Yeah, right. Okay. We do a lot of business also from YouTube. We do a lot of business from open houses. We get a lot of buy side business from different sources. Am I backing off on that right now? Hell no. Right. Like, I'm going to keep things going, with that, and keep those things cranking, keep those things rocking, until I realize that they're broken and don't work and need to adjust and whatever. I'm not going to disrupt things that are already working, especially when we don't know exactly how these changes are going to go about. However, each of my agents that may, up until, the last year, let's just say the vast majority of their business, because of things like YouTube or because of, Zillow or because of open houses, the vast majority of their business, maybe, and I've got a lot of agents in my team in different departments where, okay, maybe 90% of their business, on a personal level, like 90% of their business has been buy side business. Okay. For the past year or so, what have I been prepping them for? Hey, even though you're crushing with this, I understand you're doing, 5, 6, 7, or 8 deals a month from buy side business. And I'm not saying to stop that. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't allow yourself to lose momentum there. But in addition to that, look, I want you spending about 30 minutes a day. Let's target, let's identify a niche that works for you. I'll help them go out there and identify that niche, to go out there, go after listings. But let me help you identify the niche, spend 30 minutes a day so we can get you the skill set and get you used to getting at least one listing a month. So in the event that all this other business does get disrupted, then boom, you've got this other business over here that now you have the skill set to go out there and do that. So I recommend getting good at acquiring listings, right? So in addition to, I'm not saying to disrupt and stop what you are doing in the buy side of the business. I would keep that going. I would not allow that momentum to break. But in addition to that, just as a great way to hedge, just in case that goes away. So I'll tell you a story. Right. So one of my large investor clients that for years we've been doing a lot of business with. So middle 2022 hits. Well, the Federal Reserve starts going through their crazy rate hike cycle. One of my investor clients, and this is a big institutional investor, they're like, well, numbers don't pencil out anymore. Numbers don't make sense, because of the floating rate that they had with the Fed. The cap rates just got crushed as soon as the Fed rate hike cycle started taking place. And because cost of capital was going up for them, they're like, hey, we're just done buying. So we're not selling anything off yet, but we're just time out. We are done buying until, money gets cheaper, until prices come down, like until the cap rates, there's only a few different ways cap rates can fix themselves out here. Until that, equals itself out, like we're done. Okay, that was about 20 units a month, about 240 transactions annually that just halted and stopped overnight for my real estate team here in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, luckily, and doing this for 20 years and become one of the top realtors and team leaders, in the country, I have had situations like that, in the past where you just get blindsided. You put all your eggs in one basket, you get blindsided, and then now you're essentially rebuilding from scratch. I went through that pain. Yeah, right. So, but going through that pain, a lot of times we have to go through painful moments. It's like you got to touch the hot stove before you realize not to touch the hot stove, right? So I've learned my lesson with that. So, okay, not luckily, I learned my lesson. So strategic, I don't have my eggs in one basket anymore. So did it suck having a client that you're doing 20 units a month for to stop buying overnight? Yes. But it didn't break me. Right. Because I had multiple different other pillars that we were able to quickly scale up and still have a net gain year that year. Yeah, it was a hard push. Yeah, it sucked. Right. But it didn't break me. It didn't put me into a hard spot. So thinking of that, okay, if this business goes away, and you should be doing this anyways, this really has nothing to do with the NAR thing. Yeah, right. But you should be doing this anyway. Okay, like, I don't know, YouTube goes away tomorrow and all your business comes from YouTube. Okay, what then? TikTok. There's shit going on right now with Congress talking about banning TikTok. Okay, maybe all your business coming from TikTok. TikTok goes away. Okay, what do you do? Like here's one thing that could be guaranteed. At some point, all of these platforms are going to break and be disrupted and stop working at some point. So you got to prep and plan and hedge for that, right? So that's why recommendation number 2 here is make sure that you identify a great niche to go out there and list properties with. Because look, right now, if you are identifying the right niche, and there's right niches and wrong niches, especially in the market that we're in, to go out there and target. And really, there's 5 that are hitting best right now, right? You got expireds, you got FSBOs, you got absentee owners, you got divorces, and you got pre-foreclosures. Those are the best 5 highest converting listing sources where you get the best bang for your buck right now, that have a need to go out there and sell in this marketplace. So I just pick, just one of those, right? Because it's pretty easy with just one of those, depending on your market, to go out there and like, okay, if I want to list a property a week, depending on my system stack, okay, that's going to be about 30 minutes a day. I'm sorry, if I want to list a property a month, okay, that's about 30 minutes a day, Monday through Friday with the right strategy, right process, right skill set to go out there and acquire that listing, week. And then, okay, now I'm still doing the other things. I'm still doing my open house. I'm still doing, and again, right now I'm speaking to those of you that are heavy on the buy side. So you're continuing the buy side activities, but now you've learned, how to go out there and acquire listings. And it's not just, because you got to understand, real estate is a 2-step sales process. Number 1, we got to set the appointment. Number 2, then we got to, at the appointment, that's where we're articulating our value and going in for the close. So you got to learn, how to go out there and get to the kitchen table. Then you got to learn how to convert at that kitchen table. So when I say, dialing this in and mastering this, just getting this skill set dialed in, right? That's again, that 2 steps, getting to the table. So what does that look like? Okay. Let's just say for me, okay, if I'm going after divorce, people going through divorce right now in this market, okay, I'm going to hit the date. I'm going to get the numbers. I'm going to call them. Let's just say at 30 minutes a day, if I just want one listing a month, okay, I'm going to call them for that 30 minutes a day, have X amount of reach outs, X amount of conversations using these exact scripts and these exact follow-up protocols, right? These exact appointment setting scripts to set the appointments. But then when I conduct that appointment, I got to be damn good and have a world-class listing presentation in place to convert those into clients. Okay. So that's number 2, is just recommend getting, good at listings. So you have that skill set just in case. Because again, hope for the best, plan for the worst. If this goes away, then boom. Right? Okay. Then number 3, now we're on to, buyers specifically. So this is talking about what changes to make within your buy side business. If you don't have this in place already, make sure that you have a world-class buyer consultation in place. So treating this like you do on the listing side, right? Okay. Like, most agents have a dedicated listing presentation in place. Not most agents, but I guess I shouldn't even say that, but hopefully, okay, typically most agents take that a little bit more seriously than the buy side, right? But no different than, okay, I got this world-class listing and presentation in place. Now I got a world-class buyer consultation in place where, again, the whole point of that presentation, is to educate the consumer on, what the overall process is, educate you on what their goals are, educate them on what the overall process is. So they have the information to make their best informed decision for themselves and for their families. But then the other part of the presentation, the objective of the presentation is to articulate your value so they can see your value and choose to utilize you as their real estate professional. So when you look at real estate, because here's the cool thing about real estate is we don't actually have to sell. We're not selling the real estate itself. People already sold on the fact that they want to buy or sell real estate. Excuse me. What we are actually selling is the fact that we are the best guide to get them from point A to point B, right? So sales is just pain and pleasure. They're experiencing a pain with their current living situation, want to get out of that pain, want to get to the pleasure, right? It's our job to, of course, get clarity on what that pain is and what that pleasure is. That's just what they want, why they want it, why it's important to them. And then again, articulate, we're the best guide to get them from that pain to give them that pleasure. And they're going to go with whoever does the best job at articulating that they're the best guide for that. And then, as I said earlier, right now, how the arrangements and the agreements are going to change with the buyer broker, because the compensation has to be negotiated up front, right? This is where, how good you are at these consultations and articulating your value is going to allow you to go out there and negotiate the fee that you are worth up front. And look, this is going to pose some challenges, but I look at this as a net positive, right? Because if we look at this, like maybe you're a seasoned realtor, that's went out there and sold, 500 homes. Okay. Well, if the co-broke being offered is 3%, that means a brand new agent that has zero expertise, zero experience, that is, doing lesser for their clients is getting compensated the same as you as a seasoned agent. So for those that are serious, that do take this game seriously, that do master things like negotiations and whatever, like this gives you a chance to go out there and make your worth, man. Yeah, right. Like go out there and not be just subject to. Yeah, it's one of the DOJ's problems with how our industry was done before is the seller dictated buyer agent's pay. Right. So now you get to dictate what your pay is. But you've got to be able to. If you just go in there and you're just winging it and you're an amateur and you don't bring any value, what's your pay going to be worth? As the great Jim Rohn said, the amount of money that you make is the amount of value that you bring to the marketplace. Okay. You got to level up, make sure that you're bringing value to the marketplace. So making sure, okay, you got a world-class buyer consultation in place to articulate your value. So we already talked about the big changes coming into play. I kind of had that as a bullet point here. Number three, the next thing here, when it comes to on the buy side is niching down, right? Because the more that you niche down, the more that you can specialize on solving their particular problems. So the more they're going to see that you have value in them. So as an example, one of my big niches throughout my whole entire real estate career has been investors. Love working with investors. Now I do a lot of traditional business as well, when I have a large team, because to put this in context, I mean, I've got a large team of like 50, agents, right? Between full-time, part-time, but, so we're doing a lot of volume. So yeah, I mean, we're targeting a lot of different, strategies going after traditional buyers and sellers, but also investors, but also distressed. We have different departments for different things that we're going after. But for me personally, one of the niches I've always loved is investors. And for a lot of different reasons, right? Number one, I like the fact to them it's just numbers, right? So it's not, you don't have so much of the emotional involvement, right? And I'm an analytical guy, so to me, I like numbers and whatnot. Number two, when it comes to investors is, okay, you get a great investor, right? They might do, 5 deals, 10 deals, 20 deals a year with you or more. So it increases velocity of transactions per customer, right? So more consistent opportunities for business. The other thing, like with investors, an example, which is why this is, one of my big niches and why we switched to even putting the foot on the accelerator even harder a year ago with going after investors in this current market climate because of these proposed changes. We knew that these changes were possibly coming down, right? With what the DOJ was saying, we knew that, okay, it seemed like the DOJ was wanting us to become like, countries like New Zealand, Australia, UK, where again, but it's not that buyer agency can't be a thing. But here's the thing of like, okay, and I know I created this in my last podcast talking about this on Friday with the NAR changes, but I'll bring it up again because it's pretty important. So if we just look at and model after, okay, other countries, right, that abide by something similar and have something similar with operation style, because human behavior is human behavior, right? How the consumer acts and how human behavior is, it's not going to necessarily change from the US to New Zealand to, right, Australia to these different countries that operate in this way. So, okay, maybe you're your buyer's agent. Maybe you're just charging your client a 1% co-broke and you're selling a $600,000 house. So they look at that as, okay, I got to pay you, not a co-broke, sorry, I got to get that term out. You're charging them a 1% buyer's representation fee is what you negotiated. And like you in the old system, you would have got 2 or 3%, right? So now we're talking, you doing this at a discount, right? Of what you used to get paid. So, but in the consumer's mind, they're like, well, man, I got to pay you $6,000 to represent you. Well, if I just go with a listing agent, maybe I don't have to pay anything. If you look at these other countries, dude, a lot of times they just go to the listing agent. Yeah, right. Directly with that, right? So just kind of like a FSBO, even though with a for sale by owner, even after they pay your commissions, in most cases, you can net them more in their pocket. They still choose that, that they can go on their own. The consumer doesn't necessarily see the perceived value. Now we got to be damn good at our buyer consultation. Like I was talking about, be able to negotiate that and show them that perceived value. And whoever can articulate that the best is going to have much more success at getting these, but here's where I'm going with this is with investors, at least in my experience, investors don't give a shit. Right. They don't care. Right. Like every time I've had investors come to me, and the example I gave on the other podcast I did on Friday for you guys, but I'll give it again here. During the great financial crisis, my market here in Phoenix just gets devastated. Right. So, these $200,000 houses that now we're selling, maybe not quite 200 at the time, but they drop down to, 30, 40, $50,000 properties, these investors are getting these at 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar. So next thing you know, I'm writing all these offers for all these investors, but I'm like, man, I'm losing money. I can't make money on this. So I go to investor clients. I'm like, look, I need to bake in a minimum fee, that I got to make So, I'm going to pay the code broke. Plus, I need you to pay me a fee on top of that. Otherwise, I can't continue doing this and find you all these deals. I didn't have one investor that gave two shits about that. They didn't care. They're like, hey, look, pay yourself whatever you want to pay yourself. As long as the property meets our buy box and our numbers pencil out and you can negotiate your fee in those numbers, cool. Pay, I don't care if you're paying yourself a $20,000 fee. Pay yourself whatever you want to pay yourself. We just need the property to make sense for our numbers. And if you're able to figure out a way to make more money on making that happen and we can all win at a higher level, fine. They didn't care. Where the regular consumer might care more. That's just an example. But the more that you niche down, the more that you can become a specialist and the more that you can identify their true problems, articulate, the solutions that you have to the problems, the more, unique selling propositions that you can come up, and the more that you're able to articulate your value and the more that you can master, right, to be able to add more true value so you can get paid more with those different things. So definitely 100% niching down. And then the last thing, and I know I got ahead of myself kind of in the open in the beginning of this podcast, but I'll just say this again, don't freak out, right? Don't, because when we freak out, again, we got to be calm amongst the storm, right? When shit's chaotic and, right, let everybody else get caught up in the storm. You need to see clear. Right. So don't freak out, see clear, see the opportunities at hand, step into action. That fear and chaos creates overwhelm, puts you into inaction. Right. And then inaction is the enemy of success. Right. So we need you to, you need yourself to stay calm, see the opportunities at hand, get into action, and be putting things in place so you can be almost said breast. So you can be best prepared, to go out there and crush it in this marketplace. So with that being said, you guys, hopefully this is helpful. Go out there, make sure that you are in the best position to dominate, to crush it. Because like I said, man, I see this as the greatest opportunity, not just because I'm not going to be one that's just saying, oh, because of NAR and these, lawsuits, I see this is great. No, it's not just because of that, right? It's because of that in a combination with the economic climate, in combination with all the tech changes and AI changes and the, as I said, just the acceleration of the growth of those that most are not going to be able to adapt. And as we know, it's not the strongest that survive. It's those that adapt to the change, that not just survive, but thrive at the highest level. So I truly believe that this is the best opportunity that we have. You and I are amongst the best opportunities. So we might as well get excited about it. Changes are going to come, whether you're excited about it or not. So you might as well get excited about it, embrace the changes, go out there and take the necessary actions that you got to take. And as I said earlier, look, if you do not know exactly what you need to do to get from where you're at to where you need to go, if you're unclear on what exact strategies you should be deploying, to go out there and get these listings out of the business, or whether it's growing your, individual agent business, whether it's growing your team, whether it's growing your brokerage, no matter what level that you're at, I 100% got your back. So if you don't have full clarity of what you need to do to get from where you're at to where you want to go, and you want to schedule this 100% free, 100% zero pressure Zoom coaching call with me personally, can do that at www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. And on that call, we're going to spend 50 minutes going through where your business is at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals are, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are, what your biggest resistance points are that you're experiencing. Then from there, I'm going to map out, if we were to switch shoes, if I was you, here's exactly what I would do to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. So by the end of this call, I'm going to make sure that you have full clarity on exactly what you must do to, again, get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. Now, full disclosure, like I said, we're going to spend 50 minutes getting all that dialed in, which is plenty enough time. I promise you. I've been, not just with my own real estate business, with all my agents, but I've also coached over 5,000 agents, team leaders, and broker owners from all over, over the last 9 years. So I can promise you, I will get you dialed, and this is more than enough time. Now, the last 10 minutes, I'm going to walk through, hey, what my coaching programs are, what they entail. If they're fit for you, great. If not, that's okay too. I have a very strict, absolute no pressure policy, so I'm not here to hard sell you. It's not my style. I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to make you feel guilty. It's just, hey, here's what I got. Something you want to roll with, cool. If not, that's okay too. What you have my word on is whether you do advanced coaching with me or you only ever do this free coaching call with me. I will get you dialed in. I will make this the best, most powerful, impactful, hour investment of your time imaginable. So I won't let you down. Got your back. This is something you want to take advantage of. You got nothing to lose, everything to gain. You can schedule at www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. Hope to talk to you on that call soon. Keep crushing it, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.